That's gonna be rather interesting as this man has some insane, crazy takes. Anyways, Why Everyone Wants the 2000s Back by AndyPants Gaming. Well, I want them back because the times were better. Regardless, we're looking at this. We got hot women, so there's that. Also, please consider liking and subscribing. I appreciate it. Here we go.
Here's a question we've all been haunted by as we tried to fall asleep at night. Why have
Also, I find it rather interesting that you know, Dead or Alive is there, right? Considering that they baited and switched, right? Uh, they censored Dead or Alive heavily. Bait and switch. They bait you with cleavage and then they switch. Funny.
video game budgets and graphical fidelity skyrocketed the past 20 years, while games themselves have gotten objectively worse? At age 43, people tell me, you're just nostalgic. But then I see 20-year-olds preferring games from the 2000s to modern slop as well. Doesn't that pretty much
It's also, when you look at the data, right? You look at the data. What people in the industry said was concerning, right? That most people play older games from like even 2000, like around 2015 and earlier, right? And I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. It kind of makes sense, yeah.
prove these games were objectively better? Classics like Metal Gear Solid 3, Devil May Cry, Final Fantasy X, San Andreas, and God of War put modern slop to shame. But if games from the 2000s had less pixels, less hardware, less gigabytes, how could they possibly be better? This is the question I want to explore in this video, and I think it begins with understanding 2000s culture. If
I don't know why you showed me Nickelback. I wouldn't use that as an argument. Anyways, yeah, it is just that we've put ideology in the forefront instead of games. See? People say like oh, but Baldur's Gate 3 didn't fail and it was woke, and I'm like, no, it wasn't woke. Was there any ideology put in the forefront? You could just do what you wanted in that game. It's not the case, right?
I had to sum up the 2000s in one phrase, it would be fuck your feelings. The 2000s was literally the opposite of our safe, overly sensitive 20
School. That's a lot. Well, I can't argue with the lower row of people. That is accurate.
2025 culture today. Fear Factor threw people into pits of snakes. Jackass had people getting gored by bulls and firing bottle rockets out of their buttholes. American Idol had Simon Cowell tearing people apart on stage. Gordon Ramsay was putting bread on fat women's heads and calling them idiot sandwiches. Tropic Thunder had Ben Stiller making fun of...
We had like a talent show, right? Even in Germany, right? Where the dude literally said, a bucket full shit sings better than you. Crazy work. I know. Okay, hear me out. Good games are good, bad games are bad, and good games still come out today. But the amount of good games that come out is a lot less. It's a lot less. Especially when you literally have BlackRock admitting in an interview that, quote unquote, the woke era was a failed experiment. Isn't that interesting? I feel like some of these things are not the same as others. You can, however, say that the 2000s were people in the 2000s were a lot less sensitive than they are now. That's pretty much the case. Yeah, you heard you can even run around butt naked in Baldur's Gate 3, so I have heard. Of course you would know this.
retards and Robert Downey Jr. in blackface saying,
For 400 years, that word has kept us down.
Damon and Marlon Wayans made fun of white chicks. Nicolas Cage dominated the box office. 2000s culture did not give an F. We pretty much peaked as a society, and some of the greatest games of all time came out. Resident Evil 4. What makes this game so iconic is it's basically like playing a corny B-action movie from the 90s. You're saving the president's daughter, you're fighting a giant fish, you encounter hilarious villains like Ramon Salazar and Krauser. The entire time, Leon is just flirting with hot women and
Was that not just Napoleon? I've never played Resi 4. I think I do own it, but I've never played it. Getting trampled by a bull, getting yelled at by a British guy. Yep.
delivering epic one-liners while doing backflips.
Well, the difference is now you can still get trampled by a bull, right? But you can no longer get yelled at by a British guy, as they're a dying species. They're a dying breed out there, the British people, right? There are no British anymore. Soon. All will soon be over. The British will be gone. Not because the ocean has taken them, but mass immigration.
The one word to describe this game is just fun. Although RE4 Remake is definitely better than most of the slop coming out these days, I feel like they took a bunch of the edgy stuff out and I will always prefer the original. Racing games. So I feel like the only racing games coming out these days are simulator type racing games, your Forzas, your Gran Turismo.
The funny thing is, originally I would have not put in the new Fable because Fable characters were always dead ugly, right? The reason why I'm putting the new Fable in now is because originally there wasn't even a male character plan, to the point where they literally just put on a male skin over the female MC, which meant that the male walked like he was a woman, which looked really goofy and weird. Anyways, yeah, now I can put in Fable. To be honest, I don't play racing games, old or new. I'd say old racing games are better, especially old Need for Speed is a lot better.
With $10 trillion horse testicle shading, and honestly, I think they're boring as hell. If you're an old head like me, you remember when racing games were way edgier and funnier, like Twisted Metal and Destruction Derby. What I really miss is when racing games prioritized fun over realism. Fun is always more important than realism, and I feel like modern racing games have forgotten this. Burnout Revenge is a great example.
I'd still put Need for Speed Underground and Most Wanted into that as well. Especially, oh god, I loved Underground so fucking much. It was crazy. I played it on the GameCube. Ugh. Loved it.
This game is so insane and over the top. Each race, you have a different objective: wreck the most cars, take out opponents, finish the track fastest. The game just prioritized fun and insanity and wrecks, and it didn't care about realism, man. It was just fun. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit is another game from this era. You can call in helicopters, fire EMP pulses at other cars, and lay down spike strips. And every race is really intense. You're basically just either playing as the cops or playing as the bad guys, and you're trying to get away. Even all the way back on the original PlayStation, one of my favorite racing games of all time was Wipeout XL. It had this badass techno soundtrack, just awesome music, peak graphic design, weapons you could fire, and close races. It was really a different era of racing games focusing on fun. Metal Gear Solid 3. MGS3 is often cited as one of the greatest video games of all time because it had this amazing, edgy, and over-the-top story coupled with some of the greatest gameplay of all time. I have no idea what Kojima is doing now, but this ain't it, Chief. Solid Snake in amazing boss fights, delivering one-liners,
What? Was that just a fucking baby? What on earth was that? Freaky.
flirting with all the hot women, difficult and hard as hell gameplay that really challenged you as a player. It was peak. Dead Rising 1 and 2. Dead Rising 3 and 4 were made by Microsoft and are dog water, so if you want to experience peak Capcom, I think you need to play RE4, Dead Rising 2, and Devil May Cry. Again, what makes these games so good is they just didn't give a crap, dude. They were like, hot chicks? Yeah, of course. Funny dialogue? Of course. Edgy dialogue? Yeah, of course. Hilarious and over-the-top villains and story? Yeah, of course.
If you wanna experience peak Capcom, Monster Hunter before World. That's peak Capcom right there. I can understand the point of less good games come out nowadays, but also this video is just kind of if you get what I mean. Yeah, but his points still stand. I think AndyPants also is a lot more hyperbolic, to be fair. I think people kind of forget that he's very much hyperbolic when he calls things gay and retarded. It's mostly just that he really hates his ideology, and I do too. We don't like race communism. Mania.
Badass and awesome weapons? Yeah, of course. But another thing that made 2000s games so iconic is often they're like really, really hard. For example, in Dead Rising 1, you could just run out of time in the middle of a playthrough of the game and you're just done and you have to restart. And I love how punishing and uncompromising old 2000s games were in this way. Crackdown. So, Crackdown is a super edgy game from 2007 where you play as a cop just beating the shit out of people. It's wonderful. You run around and collect giant green orbs, which is just a viscerally satisfying thing to do. The edgy thing this game had was that different gangs correlated to different races. Ooh, we can't do that anymore because we're just pussified now as a culture. So the Shy Jin were a really funny Asian stereotype, Los Muertos were a funny Mexican stereotype, and the Volk were a funny Eastern European / Borat stereotype. I think what made later Crackdown games so bad is they took everything that made this game edgy and funny and just watered it down or removed it so it really wasn't the same game anymore. Silent Hill 2. Again, the Silent Hill 2 remake is fine and it's still better than most of the slop out today, but it's nowhere near as disturbing and good as the
There is a large problem with that remake, and that is that how do you say this? How do you say that? The combat is just a bad Souls game, and that's a huge problem for the Silent Hill 2 remake. That's an issue that people have been pointing out. But aside from that, it's just like they didn't get the people just took it because they didn't get a Silent Hill for a little while, so that makes sense. I'm also pretty sure he had a channel where he is pro woke or whatever, so Unk doesn't have aura or El Bozo. Kinda. I get it, I guess.
original. So just play the original. They had to make the main chick ugly because, of course, it's a bunch of gay Jews running things. But does anybody remember when you first encounter Pyramid Head and he's like strangling / having sex with one of those mannequins? It's like one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen, and I'm going to blur it out here on screen because you're probably not here for that. But my point is just how edgy and badass games in the 2000s were. Konami out here like, yeah, of course we're going to traumatize a bunch of 8-year-old kids with the most disturbing scene ever. Silent Hill 2 was the kind of game spoken of in hushed tones at the lunch table in 2001. Medal of Honor. So this one is kind of random, but I was playing Medal of Honor European Assault on the original Xbox the other day, and this game is super patriotic because our culture is just full of beta cuck soy boys now, and being patriotic is somehow considered edgy. Basically, the music of the game wants you to feel like you are this heroic American badass fighting.
In general, Medal of Honor was such a fun first-person shooter. I loved it. I played Medal of Honor, honestly, only on the GameCube, right? It was one game, and it was decently fun. Generally, I feel like shooters have lost their edge, and that's mostly just like, I don't know, we'll just get Call of Duty and Battlefield, and it's just the same games over and over and over for 70 or 60 bucks, and I can't see it and I can't stand it anymore. See, Sony actually had two very good shooters. Very good first-person shooters. Very fun. Very good. One was Resistance, right? One was Resistance, and the other one was Killzone. You broke Killzone's neck with Shadowfall because for whatever decision you decided that you completely separated the Shadowfall from the rest. You took out the driving different vehicles. You just It's not the same. I don't know what you cooked there. You should have stopped. You should have picked what you had. And Resistance, well, we haven't gotten the Resistance since Resistance 3. Yay. Wonderful. Amazing. Okay, but if you want to play a good World War II game, I'll just play COD World at War. Well, yeah, that makes sense. But Battlefield 1, though, I love that game. It came out in 2016 or something, so do with that what you will. It's just like, I feel like these games have become too similar, and there's nothing. Rising Sun first level takes place in Pearl Harbor. Interesting. There aren't really any new concepts explored in first person shooters. No real new stories being told, and that's a huge problem. In my opinion, that's a huge problem. Like, I wanna absolutely beat some alien ass. I wanna kill some hybrids. I wanna kill some ghouls. I wanna, you know, give me a new resistance. But just keep it the way it was. Just a new resistance would be nice, or and a new kill zone. But they let that die because they're incompetent.
in World War II. It's awesome. Another thing I love about this game is just how good it feels to play. The game wants you to feel like a hero. The way the guns shoot and move is really satisfying. I know Medal of Honor got dominated by Call of Duty starting in 2007, but this 2005 game really shows you what I think is sort of peak Medal of Honor before it went down. San Andreas, Manhunt, and Bully. So we all know Rockstar is gay, woke, and soft now because of all the women working at the company. We can see this in the safe, sanitized slop they have been putting into GTA Online the past 5 years. But did you know there was a time Rockstar was absolutely peak edgelord and constantly pushed the envelope? GTA San Andreas invented the famous hot coffee mod. Tons of sexual references in the
Good lord, what on earth? Didn't even know that was in the game. Wow. Yeah, I don't keep up with the GTA Online, right? I played it GTA Online back then when it was still only on the PlayStation 3, and that's it. So I haven't particularly kept up with that. So there is that. So interesting. Regardless, right? Regardless. I think Rockstar still stood for a while until more recently. So there's that. Also, I think even a bully, I think you could even make out with a dude. Could be wrong though.
game. Tons of violence. The game was brutal and showed real life Los Angeles. And did you know San Andreas actually made fun of trans people? I wonder what the developers at Rockstar today that are all woke think about that now. Manhunt had absolutely brutal and nihilistic killing by the player. Can you imagine some 10-year-old playing this game on the screen and his parents walking in? Wild. Zooming out a bit more, I think what the PS2 and Xbox had was simply just variety. Guitar Hero, Medal of Honor, COD, GTA, Final Fantasy X, Soul Calibur, God of War, Twisted Metal, Jak and Daxter, Tekken, Simpsons Hit and Run, Kingdom Hearts, SSX, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Back then, we didn't have all these games that were just copies of other games. It was way more likely that a game would be unique back then. Possibly the most indicting number that it shows you what dog shit video games are now is the number of
I think what people are. There's an achievement trophy with 20 kisses. Interesting. I think I have a different reason why games are ass. Actually, I think there's something different that actually causes games to be ass. My god, Bald Man, did you miss me? Very much. Did you miss me though? You always ask me if I missed you, but did you miss me? You see, I only played based games when I was a kid, so just Lego Lord of the Rings trademark. Yeah, I also played Lego Lord of the Rings and Lego Batman on the Wii. So here's the reason why all of these games are bad or ass. Graphical fidelity. It needs to be said that squeezing out every little bit of graphics, every little pixel, every little bit is incredibly expensive. So rather than focusing on what you can actually do in the game, what the game actually does, you focus on how the game looks. And that's a problem. That is an issue. See, Elden Ring, right? Looks great, looks amazing. But it doesn't have, in most parts, the sharpest graphical fidelity you could want. You know what games need? A good art style. Go away from this hyper-realistic, almost uncanny valley look, and focus on games actually having an art style that doesn't necessarily, what would you call it? Enter uncanny valley. I don't want to see every single ass pore on somebody's cheeks. I don't care. That's not what I care about. A game needs to look good. Sure. But I don't need I don't need to count I don't need to have every single mole on somebody's face in highest resolution, 8K. I don't need that. Also played Lego Jurassic World or whatever the game is called. I forgot right now. It is called Lego Jurassic World. Graphical fidelity, actually, such resolution, just high graphics, if you want to call it that. Simplified. That's a reason why all of these games are ass, because they're not focusing on what's actually important, and is that the game needs to be fun. But Poke, what about 2B's butt? I don't care about 2B's. Would people care about 2B's butt as much if the game wasn't actually good? See, people also like 2B's butt because 2B's butt is in a good game. Nier Automata is a good game. That's what people care about also.
Exclusives that came out. So the original PS2 had about 4,000 games. Of these games, some people estimate that about 1,500 of these games were exclusives to the PS2. Guess how many exclusives PS5 has? Wait for it. 15, dude.
And they were, first of all, 15 games that are exclusive. Even further, they upped the cost of the PS5 by $100 for each version. That should give you an idea. We lived once in a time where consoles with age got cheaper. We'll now live in the times where consoles with age get more expensive, and they're already working on the PS6. They barely have 15 games. I'm gonna say it straight up, everyone who bought the PlayStation 5, and especially those who have bought a PlayStation 5 Pro, are morons. Absolute morons. Dick guzzling trash cans.
The PS5 has 15 exclusives, and the PS2 had 1,500 exclusives. And it gets even worse because have you noticed how boring the exclusives that
I wouldn't really go by how many games a console has, because like if 99% of those 1,500s are like bad games, then we have a problem, right? But I don't know.
PS5 even has are Horizon Forbidden West, Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok, Death Stranding 2. These are all kind of the same dog shit third-person over-the-shoulder cinematic slop game, aren't they? They're just boring as hell. They take no risks. And of course, they're full of just gay, degenerate LGBTQ propaganda. I mean, compare these 4 games, which are supposed to be the best that the PS5 has to offer, and compare that with the catalog of the PS2.
Don't take it from him, though. Oh god, I see Buzz. Anybody remember Buzz on the PlayStation 3 with like the buzzers, like the separate controllers that you had, and like the stick that you had to put in, like all the questions and stuff? Don't take it from him, though. Take it from BlackRock in an interview where they say the woke era was a failed experiment, which means that the richest company on the planet pushed this agenda and said straight up, yeah, by the way, we swung too far. Yay! But God of War Ragnarok is good though, right? Or at least I thought people thought so. Apparently the original creator of God of War does not like the modern God of War games. I think there's like 2 categories. There's like the categories that like what they're doing with God of War, and there is the ones that are, how do you say that prefer the more hack and slash style of God of War. And you gotta say that like old God of War definitely was more hack and slash than modern. Okay, that was on PS2. There was Buzz also on PlayStation 3, because I own it. I have the stick upstairs. I was playing. I still have the all 4 controllers and the CD. That was PlayStation. There was a Buzz for PS2. There was also a Buzz for PlayStation 3.
We used to have variety, man. Developers actually used to care about what they were making, and fun was always the primary motivation of making a game. So what changed, boys? What killed 2000s culture and also killed video games? And it's quite simple. Redditors, soy boy beta cucks, progressive white women, LGBTQ degenerates.
I cannot argue with the white women part and the LGBT. I can't argue with that. I can't, because it's true, because we can look at numbers, right? We have the numbers. The one that have the highest DEI stuff are the ones that are also the most cooked financially and have to let people go because their games are flopping.
Trans people, and Jews. The feminization of culture, the gayification of culture, the pussification of
Okay, the Jew part I did not see coming at all, bro. I don't know if you could. I don't know. I don't know if you could put that on the. I feel like it's kind of gay and retarded in itself to put everything on the Jews because, you know, that takes away from your own responsibility. It's like people blaming white people, other people blaming white people for their own mistakes and failures.
culture. My wife was recently watching some woke Netflix documentaries, and the point of the documentaries was how, quote, toxic and problematic The Biggest Loser and America's Next Top Model were. If you remember, those were reality shows in the 2000s. I never really watched either of these shows, but apparently they were funny, edgy, and hilarious. Coaches would yell at fat people and tell them to get their fat ass back on a treadmill. Tyra Banks, who actually sounds based as hell, would roast the shit out of women who wanted to be models. It sounds great. And guys, it all goes back to fuck your feelings. We had balls in the 2000s. You don't like it? Cry about it. Stop being a little bitch. These Netflix documentaries perfectly capture what fucking pussies progressives have become today. They talk about how, quote,
I have to say that the Will scene in Stranger Things was pretty cringe. What do the Jews have to do with this? For some weird reason, Israel pushes very weird agendas. It's very weird. Especially the mass immigration specifically for Europe. I don't know. This is, by the way, politicians in Israel saying that, not Jews in Europe saying that, regardless. It's very interesting. But then again, you gotta separate Benjamin Netanyahu removes $5,000 from this man's bank account. True, right? You gotta separate the government from the people. So, what is this? Bro has bigger boobs than some of the women I know. Maybe some of the women in chat. Anyways.
problematic Tyra Banks and Jillian Michaels were, even though all they were doing is telling fat asses to get back on the treadmill. I think this is a perfect analogy to what we are seeing today and why video games have become so bad. And we only have ourselves to blame because we allowed trans people, gay men, and women to work at these companies. Old games were edgy. They didn't give a fuck. They were fun. They didn't take things too seriously, and they were primarily designed to entertain men. Games today are soft, safe, bland, sanitized, watered down, and gay, man. They're just gay. I was playing Grounded in 2020, and it has a checkbox at the beginning of the game that says, check this box if you have arachnophobia. It basically turns all the spiders into blobs floating around. Like, imagine if Silent Hill 2 at the beginning of the game had said, check this.
Yeah, Monster in the Wilds has that too, where like the spider monster, small spiders get turned into like green blobs, except for the big spider. I don't really like the government of Israel, but I think Jews are completely fine. You know why? Because I'm a reasonable person. Yeah, I don't think the problem is really the normal people. I think the government is doing really weird shit, shady shit. I don't know.
Box if you don't want to see the pyramid head sex scene. Like, what is wrong with people? So guys, how did this happen? How did edgy games from the 2000s get replaced with Fortnite and Roblox slop? And what I think it all goes back to is the fact that progressive women, gays, and Redditors do not have God in their lives and therefore need to project their incorrect morality on the world around them to justify their own pathetic existence. Let me explain. In the 90s, who were the only people complaining about violence in video games? It was Christian Karens, right? It was our moms. But today, who are the quote religious people of today? Who are the, so to speak, priests and bishops of our culture today calling out things and calling them wrong? Is it not the woke people? Is it not, ironically, the degenerates who are calling things right or good or evil? And do you guys see the irony here? And that's a problem. They call everything you do.
I mean, he isn't wrong to the degree that those are the people complaining about that when something is offensive in fiction. He isn't wrong. I can't argue against it. He isn't wrong. He isn't wrong. He isn't wrong. I'm still putting the blame on billionaires. So there's that. It's the billionaires. It's the billionaires. It's always been the billionaires. BlackRock, they straight up admitted it. We watched the video yesterday. They straight up admitted it in an interview. Right? Think. I don't really care about your religion, but I don't think it's related to this. And all to be clear, I'm completely fine with pretty much all religions. I think that, like, they are treating that as a religion, which is what he means by that. Right? We had, like, the satanic panic, if you know anything about this, right? Where, like, everything that was remotely not, quote-unquote, normalized in society was, quote-unquote, satanic. Like Pokemon, for example, right? That was... We basically have the exact same thing, though it is with, far left extremists that do this. It's almost the exact same. It's just that the sides have switched.
White supremacy, even though you're just a white guy who wants to live his life. They create words like toxic masculinity to make men feel bad about their God-given desires. They preach diversity, except when it's a bunch of fat, purple-haired white women in a room. No, they're fine. They don't need diversity. Have you ever thought to ask this question? Why is it only the majority white countries that need diversity? Guys, I hope you see what I'm getting at here. Wokeness isn't just a cancer. It's not just a symptom of a mentally ill person.
I mean, he's right. Nobody's like, oh yeah, Africa needs diversity. Nobody's like, oh yeah, China needs diversity. Asia needs diversity. Nobody's sitting here and saying, well, they are sitting here saying Japan needs diversity, to be fair. It's like weird, right? It's just Europe, the United States, and Japan, realistically. Nobody's sitting there is like, Pakistan needs diversity. India needs diversity. There's not enough, black people there, or white people, right? Nobody's saying that. It's only for Europe and United States. And Japan. Not even Korea. Just Japan. It's weird.
Person who screeches whenever they see Trump. Wokeness is an alternate religion. It's an alternate faith. It elevates the gay, black lesbian to the status of a demigod. And by the way, I know tons of black people who actively hate this woke shit and are tired of being used as pawns by white liberals. So guys, I guess what I'm saying is this.
I mean, no gay people that are the exact same. They're just like, nah, we're done. One of the major groups is Gay Against Groomers, and in some parts we have groups that say LGB without the T. So there's that, right? To be fair, that kind of makes sense because LGB are sexualities and T is not, and the rest is not, technically. I'll be the first to say China needs more black, gets exploded by CCP. Chinese communist penis. Moving on.
2000s, entertainment was allowed to be edgy because we had free speech. We had a free market. Christians, for the most part, wanted entertainment to be fun and didn't feel the need to project our values onto culture. But what we've seen since 2011...
Yeah, because that went away in the 90s and 80s. So that's why the 2000s were chill. Ah, look at that. Me Too. It was so fun seeing celebrities push Me Too, but then protect PDFs in Hollywood. Wonderful. Amazing. Truly amazing.
Is the rise of literally Satan himself, the woke religion. It's a religion that feeds on the blood of young children as it sacrifices them down the garbage chute in the form of hundreds of thousands of abortions. These white progressive women doing this stuff, and they must be stopped.
Actually, we still have free speech today. I mean, well, you do. Technically, you do. Right. In the US, you do, but in Europe, you do not. I can confidently say that I, in Germany, do not have free speech. If I say something that might be considered remotely offensive, I may end up having the police here. This is particularly towards things like Islam and LGBT. Isn't it fun? I do not have free speech. You may have it, but I do not.
Reject the woke religion, reject mind control. I'm a Christian, but I don't need to see my particular religious values projected on every form of media around me. I'm simply tired of seeing gays and Jews and Redditors running all the media I consume. I'm tired of diversity. I'm tired of the obsession with multiculturalism. I'm tired of the hatred of white people. White people created the internet, toilets, modern plumbing, and Western society itself. These are our culture. Why is every other race allowed to have a culture except for white people? So bringing this all back to video games, guys, let me tell you how we get back to the 2000s. We do it by this. Number one, make art and stop caring about what people think about it. Number two, do you and stop looking to other people for affirmation. This is what the 2000s was all about. Just make something, man. Make.
Back then, I think what the core issue is, right? I think what the core issue is that we have is that we need affirmation for everything, right? I mean, I need to feel good. This needs to make me feel good. If it doesn't make me feel good, I don't like it. Then it needs to be gone. And I feel like that going back to a time where you just do your thing and anybody who is a dick you just ignore, right? Is much better, right? Because right now we're in a time where like this very loud but small but loud minority is like catered to me. It's like how do you say this? They want special treatment, right? When LGBT of the old days just wanted to be treated the same. Not special, the same. But these people want special treatment. That's why we're here where we are. Okay, to be honest, extremism on both sides is bad. No, no, duh. Yeah, makes sense, right? We can't see. I shit on feminism a lot, right? I do a lot. But both extremes are still bad. If we go too masculine, we'll end up in Islam. If we go too feminine, we end up where we are now. There needs to be balance. As Thanos said, perfectly balanced. I don't like insanely woke. I don't like insanely conservative. Also, sorry about your elbows, a country twin. This country is hell on earth. I swear to God. Yeah, this video is supposed to be about video games. Well, kinda. He drifted off. Doesn't understand art like Metroid Prime 4. Metroid Prime 4 is one problem. Right? Metroid Prime 4 is one huge problem. Everyone talks except Samus. And I feel like if Samus doesn't talk, nobody should talk. Or if somebody does talk, it should be limited to simple dialogue. Like it is in Prime 2, for example. Or Prime 3. Regardless, anyways.
What you want and forget about the repercussions. Forget about what people are going to say. Just do it, man. Reject pussification. Reject gayification. Dude, our culture has become so fucking soft, man. Be as offensive and as edgy as you want and let the chips fall where they may. All right, I'm out.
for 400 years.
Immaculate 2000s vibes. Anyways, yeah, I agree with him, but I kind of don't. It depends. I feel like there are definitely people who are completely normal, and then there's people who aren't, and that's the problem. Right? There's totally normal gay and trans people who actually don't give a shit and are edgy as fuck and just want to do their shit. And then there is whatever's running the gaming industry, secret black agents. Anyways, rather interesting.